Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Let's continue with our episode. In this episode, we are going to work on our product section. In the previous episode, we have covered how we can create listing and the editing categories. And based on all those features, we can continue the product creation. So in this episode, we are going to cover most of the endpoints for the products. As soon as we are completed this product section, then we can put our hands on the hooking up to the front-end application. So where we can see the full-fledged whole pipeline from the sign up the user, becoming a seller, then finally we can create the category and the product stuff. All right, then let's dive into the code. So let's try to visit our create product handler, right? So if you can see here, there are no any kind of codes are involved. So we are simply returning from here one message by saying the create product endpoint, right? So let's try to add some code here. So at least we can create our product and we can insert that particular data to the database, right? To create the product, what are the things we need to create first? First of all, we need to have one model, right? The same way we have just created our models and that is residing somewhere here inside the domain, right? So you can see like we have our categories here and we have our product model as well as, right? So let's try to verify what are all the required stuff is there or not. So we have our ID, name, description, category ID, image URL, price, user ID, stock, created and updated at. I think all those things are already present here, right? So now what we need to do, let's go to our repository. So where we are going to create this product stuff. So now here in the catalog repository, you can see we have all the category operations are there in the catalog repository interface. So what we need to do, we need to add some more functions that can be accommodated to create our product and all the product related operations. Let's try to add all the product related operations quickly. So now we have all the product related operations here in the catalog repository interface. So let's try to implement all these things in the catalog repository struct. Can you see like we have implemented all this category stuff right here, right? The similar way we are going to implement everything, right? So if you are using Golang, then definitely you will get the chance for implement all these missing methods automatically, right? Otherwise, you can use some kind of plugins if you are using in Visual Studio Code also. But let's stick with this one. Here I'm going to implement all the missing methods. So now you can see all the missing methods are added on the top of this file, right below the catalog repository struct, right? Let's add some code to all of these functions one by one. Then I will be explain everything to you. Perfect. So now we have added all the codes correctly. Let's review quickly all of the functions. So you can see in the create product, we are accepting one input parameter that is called entity, E for entity, all right? And that entity refers to our domain that is called domain.product. It's a kind of pointer, right? And you can see while we are just creating our product, this time we're writing a little bit different type of syntax, right? Let's review all the functions quickly. So in the create product, you can see we are receiving one input that is called E. E stands for, you can say, entity. And this entity exactly coming from our domain, you can see this one, right? This one. And if you go here once again, like catalog repository, and we can see here, we are just creating our record right here, right? So how we are creating, we are additionally this time we are providing like which model we are targeting, right? So this syntax is a little bit different than earlier, right? If you go scroll down a little bit and let's check it out, the create category. And here in the create category, you can see we are writing a little bit different syntax. So here we are saying the C stands for catalog repository db.create, and we are referring to our entity right here, that domain category, right? So here GoORM is smart enough to infer that which table we are talking about and where that particular data, that record need to insert, right? So that's why you can write this type of shorthand as well as, or you can go with like this as well as, right? It's up to you. If you are going to write like this way, then you need to precisely mention what exactly type of model or maybe what type of that particular entity you are using to insert or create the record, right? So this is the way we are just creating our product first. End of the day, you can see we're just creating our record here and we're returning the error. If error is not equal nil, then definitely this is a kind of error on the creating the product, right? And if there are no errors, then return the nil. So for Pine products, you can see we are simply creating one pointers of domain.product and we're assigning all the products right here. So you can add some offset and limit as well as. The limit and offset you can just provide it by a limit. Whatever the limit will be there, then offset also you can provide the offset like this. Here we can provide this particular offset. So if you're going to use the offset and limit, then definitely we need to provide all these things as a kind of input right here, right? So this is the way we can just like query our products. Pine product by ID also it's very similar, just like category. And you can see we are simply creating one pointer to the product and we are just finding the first item of the product table by ID and we're assigning right here in the product pointer. You can see this one. And if there are any kind of error, we are returning here. If there is no any error, and we are returning the data, right? So what is Pine seller products? So as you know, like all the products has to be belongs to someone, right? So whoever going to sell that product has to be categorized by seller ID. So that's why while we are just creating the product here, if you see in this create product, if you go to the product domain, I'm gonna close rest of all, close other tabs. And if you go to the product domain, you can see we have our user ID. This user ID exactly it belongs to our seller ID, right? Because user can become a seller as well as, right? So this is the way we are finding out like whatever the products I have created. As an example, I'm selling all the electronics items. Then I can find out all the items belongs to me by seller ID, right? So you can see like we're just creating one array of the products and we're finding out all the products by user ID and we're assigning right here. If there are error, then we are returning here. If there is no error, then we are returning the products. Right? And edit product is the similar, just like our edit category. You can see like we are just receiving our product right here, right? As a kind of input. And this input, we are just trying to save it right here, right? And if there are error, then we are returning errors. And if there is no error, then we are returning the updated product right here. In the delete product, we are simply deleting the product by ID, right? So you can see we are accepting the input domain.product. This is not necessary to provide the domain.product also. You can simply provide the ID here also, right? So I think we have covered in the repository part. Now we can go to our service part where we can implement all these functions from our repository. For creating the products in the service side, what we need to do, we need to create a couple of things. So as you can see here for category, we have just created our DTO here, right? To create the category. So what we can do, we can just create one more DTO right here, just only per product. So this is going to be Go file, and we will say this is going to be our product product.dto product maybe product request DTO. Let's go. All right, so here what we can do, we can just create a couple of struct, right? So the type, the create product struct, and inside here we can add all the related stuff. First of all, we need one name. This is going to be again session, and second we need description. Then third we need the category ID. Then port. Let me close this node. Right, port. We need the image URL. Then we need our price as well as. Then we need our stock. Right. So these are the things that are going to be needed to create our product request. Right. Then you might have thinking like where the user ID will come from, because the product, for creating the product, the user ID also going to be needed. Then definitely the user ID, we will capture it from our request header, right? Where we will be authenticate our user beforehand, right? Then one more thing we need to have, that is called our update stock request. So where only we are, because we have created our product, then somehow we need to update our stock as well as soon as the stock quantity will be decrease, or maybe the customer started the processing that particular product item, right? Then let's try to add this parameter as well as, right? This is called stock, right? our product request DTO is ready, right? So let's go to our the catalog service once again here in the catalog service. All right, so here in the catalog service, you can see all the functions are related to category only. We don't have anything to related to products. So let's try to add some code quickly, so which is going to accommodate our create product operations. Alright, so now we have added all the functions. Let's try to visit one by one all of the functions together. So you can see in the create product, we have our input, right? And while it comes to create the product, then you can see the user ID is necessary. But here in this create product functions from our catalog service, there's no any options where we can grab the user ID, right? So let's try to add one more parameter in the argument section, like create product. The first argument will be our input. This is going to be create product request, right? And second argument will be our user, right? User. So this is going to be our domain.user, right? So these things somehow we need to provide from our handler, right? So while we are going to call this particular the service. So how we can get this user ID right here? So this is very simple, right? So user ID will be our, instead of input, we can say user.id. Perfect. Now a couple of things we need to add. That is going to be our, one more thing. This is going to be our stock, because somehow we need to grab this stock as well as. So how we can grab this stock? So let's try to convert to uint, then input stock. Right? So uint. And this user ID is completing, so we need to convert it to int. Perfect. So now it seems like one more parameter we can add, that is called our image URL. If we are providing this image URL, then input image URL will be perfectly fit right here. So now our create product request is complete, right? So we can call this request to repository, and we can create the product record right there, right? If there is any kind of error will be occur, then it will return the error. Otherwise, it will return nil, right? You can add the additional check also, but this is not necessary, because anyway, if all the things are going to be well, then definitely this error will be nil, right? Then it doesn't make sense to add extra check to do whether the error is nil or not and return nil, otherwise error. It doesn't make sense. In the edit product section, you can see we are trying to find it out if the product is exist already. Then we are letting user to edit all the existing properties, right? And again here, we are checking it out whether the input parameter against of name, description, price, and category we are providing. Then only we are updating the existing product property right here. Otherwise, we are simply doing nothing, right? As an example, we have a little bit changes on the description part, right? Then we no need to necessarily change the name and etc. Then only we are going to update the description part, and rest of all the property will be remain same, right? And finally, once everything has been updated, then we are calling the repository to update the existing product here, right? This existing product will be having our user ID also. Then while we are going to the handler, we are going to call from the handler. Then beforehand, we will check it out whether this particular product ID is belongs to that particular user or not. If this user ID, this particular product is not belongs to the user ID, then we are not letting him to edit this product, right? And that logic we are going to add it in our handler section. Then here in the delete product, right? So here in the delete product, we are just to try to find it out the existing product here. And if the product is exist, then only we are just simply deleting the product, right? And get product by ID, get products, all the products we are trying to find it out. It doesn't matter, maybe it's from our seller or maybe some other seller also. It is simply providing the whole list of products right here. So here's the tip. If you try to find it out the products by page, then you can introduce the offset and limit right here. Here we are trying to find it out the product by ID, right? And finally we will return the product. And get seller products, it will provide all the products that belongs to particular user. this is going to return here. And one more endpoints we need to add it here. You can see we have the edit product, but we don't have the update stock one, right? So let's try to add that update stock one also, right? So in this case, I'm gonna add it right here, update stock. Cool. So now in update stock, this EID exactly, it's need to convert to INT. Cool. Here in the update product stock, we are trying to find it out whether the product is exist or not. Then we are trying to verify the product owner here. You can see this this entity user ID is coming from our handler, and this product exactly it's coming from our database, right? So we are trying to match it out. If this product ID, this product user ID, and provided product user ID, if it is equal, then we are try to update the stock. Otherwise, we are returning the error by saying like you don't have managed write access to this product. This kind of similar condition we can add it right here in the edit update product as well as. So in this case, what we need to do, we need to grab one more extra parameter that is called user domain.user. So this is not necessarily need to happen in the service. So you can add this condition in the handler also. But if you try to keep your handler clean, then definitely I would suggest keep this kind of conditions right here in the service section. So service will be handle all this kind of logic as well as then all our handler only going to validate what were the user input right there, if it is authorized or not, or certain things we can do it right there, right? So let's try to keep all this burden in the service. So here, what we can do, we can just add this existing product user ID, and instead of this user ID, we can say user.id. UINT. All right, so we can say INT, then we can convert this one. Cool. So finally, we have covered everything, right? So we have our create product and we have our edit product section where we have added all the conditions to edit the property for the existing product. And this is our delete product, and this is our get products, get product by ID, get seller products, and finally our update product stock. Cool. So now let's try to hook up all these things with our catalog handler. Now let's try to add some code quickly to cover all the functions. Then I'm going to explain it together. So we have added all the codes to our handlers. So let's try to visit all the functions one by one. In the create product, you can see this is our request and we are trying to evaluate here. And then we are trying to grab the authenticated user here. So this get current user, it is coming from our authentication one, like this auth.go file. And here you can see we are grabbing the current and get current user from here. And if you see here in the catalog handler, here, these are the endpoints. It is only going to be executable by our seller only, because right before execution, we will be having our authorization from here, right? So only seller can access all these endpoints. Here, while we are creating the product, then we are not worried about who is going to create the product. So definitely this user has to be seller, right? Then we're simply just to try to create the product and this request that is we are creating from here, and additionally we are just passing our user from our authenticated user, right? And if there is any error, then just return it back, and if everything is go well, then we are sending the successful message. In the get products, it's a public API, so we no need to worry about the what are the products we are going to patch it out, right? So we are simply just like calling our get product endpoints here, and finally we are returning these products right there. And get product by ID, this is also another public API where we are not caring about the user section here. So we are simply providing the ID in the path, right? In the path parameter, if you see here, right? This product by ID, right? Yeah, this product by ID, and it has to be come over here as well as, right? This one, right? So in the two places we can just like find it out the product by ID, or maybe we can just like use the same URL, but again we have already grouped our private URL by giving the seller prefix, right? So this is going to be convenient. So just to try to segregate this type of like endpoints rather than making confusions. So now here you can see get product by ID is clear, right? Get product by ID is clear. Then edit product. Edit product, again we are grabbing our product ID from our path parameter. Then we are grabbing our request from body, and finally we are grabbing the current authenticated user. And while we are editing the product, then definitely that product ownership has to be verified correctly. So where we are just simply providing this edit product and a request right here. You can see ID is the product ID and request is the whatever we are going to edit right there. And this is our authenticated user. And finally evaluating the errors and sending their success response from here. In the similar way, in the update stock also, we are grabbing our ID from there and we are receiving our request and we are evaluating it and we are grabbing our authenticated user. And finally, we are creating our product struct right here by simply providing ID, stock, and user ID, because only we are going to update the stock. So this ID and user ID is going to be needed to evaluate whether the product exists and the product ownership is for the current user or not, right? And line number 193, we are simply updating our product stock. And here, as a success response, we are providing the updated product stocks right there. And delete product is similar, but here we need to do a little bit tweaking here, because right now our delete product is not protected, and it's protected, but anyone can delete anyone's product ID, right? So the delete product, we need to do a little bit tweaking. So that's why I just left a comment right here. So what we can do, let's try to grab our authenticated user from here, right? So this is going to be user, authenticated user. And while we are deleting the product, so make sure we are passing this user as well as, right? Now, let's go to delete product section, right? In the service. And what we can do, we can grab this similar piece of code, just like verify our ownership, right? And let's try to add it there. Go to here, right after this one. And we can check like whether this existing product user ID is here. And the second parameter will be our user. This is going to be domain.user, and we will check it out. If the user.id is not equal to our existing product ID, then certainly we need to say you don't have managed rights to this product. This is perfectly fine, but this is exactly we need to cast it. int, let's cast it here. Cool, but it seems like we have only error. So what we can do, we can just remove this nil here and we can send it error. Cool, so now our delete product also covered. So this is the time where we can test it out all the endpoints. All right, so right now we are on a good shape where we can run the application. So let's try to spin the application and check it out whether it is working with the Postman or not, right? So let's try to run the application, make server. And our application is running. So let's go to Postman. And here already we have joined our seller program using one user ID earlier. So we are going to use the same user ID. Let's try to use the user login. So this is the user ID which we have used. So let's try to log in, right? So this is our token. And as you can see in the script, already we have added this particular script where as soon as we are getting the response from our server, then it will automatically assign that user token, right, from the response. So, and that user token is already there in the top level. Like if you go to user service, you can see in the authorization we are using that user token, right, as a bearer token, right, this one. So now let's try to create our products here. But before that, let's check it out if we have any categories. So where we can get the categories, right? So from the product section, let's try to get categories, right? Let's try to call this one. So we can see we have 2 categories, 1 and 3, right? So let's try to use the category ID 1, so where we can create our smartphones, maybe. So these are the routes already we have added here in the Postman collection. And if you have not used this Postman collection, then try to check the description below in the repository, where you can find it, the whole collection, whole updated collection there, right? So now let's try to create our product. So inside the seller, we can go to create product. In the create product, so this is the endpoint we are going to use. That is called seller/products, right? And base URL is coming from our environment variable. And the product, this is our product name, description, and this is our category ID, right? That is exactly which is we have get it from here, right? This one. And this is the image URL. So you can use any kind of image URL, but definitely in the next episode, we are going to integrate the AWS S3 bucket, where we will be uploading this image URL from our front end, right? Then this is our price and this is the stock. So let's try to create the product, right? So now can you see it is saying product created successfully, right? Perfect. So now we have created our product successfully. Now let's go to get seller product. I'm going to close rest of all the tabs, auto tabs, and get seller products. And here, this endpoints will be going to give us all the available products for that particular seller, right? Now let's try to call this one. Can you see we have our product ID 2, right? Now let's go here in the get product by ID. This is also we are going to test it out. So in this case, we are going to provide the product ID 2. Then can you see it is giving the correct product, right? Now, what we are going to do, we are going to update the stock, right? So let's go ahead here in the update stock endpoint. And this is the product ID 2. And we're going to update the stock number of 10, right? Now, can you see its stock is updated? So this is the updated product. And again, if you go to product by ID, then this time, if you're going to call this endpoint, this stock has to be updated, right? Now stock is updated to 10, right? Now, one more thing, what we need to do, we need to edit the product also, right? So in this case, again, let's try to call this one. Let's say this product ID will be 2. Now this time we are going to update the price. So if you go to get product by ID, you can see the price is 400 here. And right after edit, it should have to be 1400, right? So let's try to call this endpoint. So now you can see updated price is 1400. And even if we're going to call this get product by ID, it has to update. Yeah, can you see this updated, right? And finally, what we can do, we need to delete the product as well as, right? So let's go ahead here in the delete product section. And this is the product ID 2. And we are simply going to call this endpoint, right? So product delete, right? So delete product is working. Now let's try to get all the products. So if this is the delete product is working, then definitely we should not supposed to have any kind of data right here. It has to return some kind of empty array, right? Let's try to call this one. Now can you see we have deleted successfully all the products. Cool. So this is the way we can just handle all the product creation and product listing as well as. In the next episode, we are going to put our hands on the creating the front end part, where we will be create our users and we will do login and we will convert our user to seller, where we can create the products, and finally we are going to listing out all the product and categories, etc. Then we can move forward to the adding to cart and adding functionality to make the payment, and finally shipping the product, etc. All right, then that's all for today. Let's take a quick break. I will see you in another episode.